So my best friend and her fiance have been driving me literally crazy the last few months because they've been fighting over the topic of getting a dog. Both of them very much want a dog, but the problem is that he wants a specific breed, and his name is Maverick, and he thinks that an English bulldog is the only type of dog that could hold the name Goose, which is what he wants to name his dog. And she very much wants to adopt animals from a shelter. So despite his best efforts, I definitely have to side with her. I think that adopting an animal, if you're going to get one, is the best way to go. Today I want to be introducing you into the emotional, financial, and health benefits of rescuing, as well as helping you understand why there's such a dire need. Now, I know everyone has seen those awful commercials with Sarah McLachlan, and there's the snapshots of the most pathetic animals they could find, and In the Arms of the Angel is playing in the background, and it's just very sad. But the point of it is that it has a purpose, and it wants to get an emotional appeal from you. It wants to get you to feel bad and hopefully open your wallets and then ideally open your home to an animal in need. But those of you who've ever adopted in here know that you don't need to see that commercial to feel bad and to want to open your home. So when doing this, you're going to have a few steps, and the first thing is going down to the shelter, and you're going to play with the animals, dog, cat, whatever you choose to get. And when at the shelters, most of these animals are mature, so you're going to know their temperament, and a lot of the time they're housebroken and they're trained, which are benefits that you might not get when you're getting a puppy from a pet store. And besides that, you're saving a life. And when I say save, you're literally saving a life, because these animals a lot of the times are in kill shelters, which means that they get euthanized. And euthanization is meaning that elderly animals, chronically ill animals, or animals that have been at the shelter for a long period of time have to be put down because there's just not enough room. There's just an abundance of homeless animals. And a lot of the time people associate why they don't want to get them in the shelters is because they associate these animals with being damaged goods. But something a lot of people don't know is that 80% of the animals that they get from shelters are not because these animals are damaged goods. It's because people change their living situations. And that can mean moving to a smaller apartment where they don't allow you to have pets, or a baby comes into the family and they're scared that it might harm their child, or because they have to surrender the animal to the shelter because the owner is too ill to take care of it anymore. So that was a little bit about the emotional part of it, but now I wanted to talk to you about the financial benefits of adopting. When you rescue a pet, you pay an adoption fee, which in most places is around $30. And then additionally to that, you have to pay for it to be spayed or neutered. But as I said, 80% of those animals came from homes previously, so a lot of it's done for you. So by the time you're done and you sign all the papers, the cost of having the animals is maybe $60 to $75. And that's in comparison to the hundreds of dollars that it costs to buy an animal at a pet store or from a breeder. It's a fraction of the cost. So if that wasn't enough, then how much healthier your animal should be. So when you get an animal from a shelter, 9 out of 10 of them, according to the SPCA website, have the animals dewormed and vaccinated before they get to enter the kennels. And they also are given checkups by in-house vets, so if any pre-existing medical conditions are present, you know about them up front. What is not always the case is if you get it from a breeder or a pet store. And a lot of these pet stores, the reason is because they're getting their animals from puppy mills, which are essentially factory store dogs. They're these dog breeding facilities that you have put these animals are in such poor conditions, and there's hundreds of them in these farms or whatever you want to call it, and the dogs usually don't have good medical care, and they're old, and they're used to be bred over and over again. And the parents of these puppies are in such bad condition that they're passing these poor medical conditions onto their puppies. The puppies have anything from hip dysplasia to spinal problems, poor eyesight, problems with breathing, just to name a few things. And they don't have like a chance of usually getting out to have human companionship, and so a lot of the times they're aggressive, and that temperament can be passed on to these animals that you're essentially buying in the pet stores. And a lot of the time they're discarded after they can't be bred anymore. They're either killed or sold at an auction. And then the product of those dogs, these puppies, are being sold at the pet stores or over the internet through newspaper classifieds or whoever's willing to pay the price for them. But they're marketed as coming from great breeders, but it's like a well-rehearsed tactic to keep money flowing to the puppy mills by ensuring the buyers never see where the puppies actually come from. So the problems might be apparent for months, the medical problems that they can have, and in the long run they can cost thousands of more dollars to treat them in the first place. So overall, your animal from a shelter stands a much better chance at being healthy and happy if it's been checked out by the on-staff nurses and doctors, as I already mentioned. And finally, I wanted to talk to you about why there's such a dire need for the animals to find good homes. Well, approximately 5 to 7 million companion animals enter shelters nationwide every year, and approximately 3 to 4 million of those have to be euthanized. Now, while it's impossible to get an exact number of the amount of homeless animals that are on the streets, the National Council on Pet Population determined that there were 70 million stray cats alone. So that's not including dogs, birds, whatever other animals you may be interested in adopting. So that's sad and dire in itself. But another thing I thought about was Hurricane Katrina. That's something that happened in the last 3 years, and those states are so overrun with homeless animals because they were abandoned, and they're, the people come first. But we forget about what happens to those dogs. And again, according to the ASPCA website, only 15,000 of the 104,000 animals who are left homeless have been rescued. So imagine how overrun and how overpopulated those shelters are, and if everyone who wanted a dog or a cat or whatever animal he chose one of them, because they have programs set up where you can get those animals shipped out here or set up some type of payment plan to help them. So the next time you are looking into getting an animal, I hope that before you go to a pet store or a breeder and invest hundreds of dollars in them, you take the trip down to your local SPCA.
So, Alan, what did you think?
Well, I thought the speech flowed pretty well. It's a great introduction, good preview of the topic. I like how you related Sarah McLachlan commercials to us, because I think we've all seen those, and it gave us all a kind of a visual picture of what you were portraying to us. You were very informative and knew exactly what you were talking about. You had great eye contact, and your tone was really good, too. I think the time length was about perfect. This topic seems really close to your heart, which is really good to talk about. The only negative, I would say, was the and ums that you would kind of use them as a filler, and you spoke a little bit too fast, almost like you were trying to rush through it, but who doesn't do that? So that was a little problematic. Otherwise, it was a fine speech. All right, thank you.
I thought the energy level was fine. I didn't see that it felt too rushed, but I can see that it's on the edge there, especially sometimes in comparison to other speeches that we've heard where people are being a little more lethargic, so maybe it does come across that way. I thought you had very solid eye contact. So the presentation issues, I've got no complaints. In fact, I have very few complaints about anything in the speech. I did think that you needed to figure out a better way to make that Sarah McLachlan ad reference. I know you want to get the emotional appeal in there, and it's an interesting subject that people can identify with. I'm just not sure how it fits as much into your argument as it could. There's probably a better place for it rather than near the introduction. Maybe later on when you're talking about the shelter animals, that would be a good place for a reference like that. I thought there was some good statistical information on the animals in the shelters and their likelihood, why they're there, and those sorts of things. So that was fine. There were a couple of good emotional appeals. I do think, I like the story that you started with about your friends. I was waiting for a resolution, so what they decide to do. I kept expecting that was going to be there at the conclusion, and we never found out. So your friend apparently is not going to get an English bulldog named Goose. He's going to get some Pomeranian abandoned dog from the shelter. It sounds like, because if you get a vote. Is that it?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. You don't have